Here's a question I want you to sit with for a moment. If someone gave you 10 million euros tomorrow, would that be enough to guarantee you a good life? Most people's first instinct is yes, and I understand why. 10 million euros solves an enormous number of real problems. But think it through a little further. What if your health was gone? What if there was no one around you that you genuinely trusted? What if every day felt empty despite the number in the account? This channel exists to help people build financial independence. That's real, that's important, and we take it seriously here. But financial independence is a tool, it's not a destination. And one of the most reliable ways to spend decades building toward the wrong thing is to define wealth too narrowly. Today, I want to look at three dimensions of wealth that almost never appear in personal finance content. Not because they're secret, but because they're harder to put a number on. Health, relationships, time, and quality of life. And I want to do it with data, not philosophy, because the research on each of these is actually remarkable and more relevant to your financial life than most people realize. Quick reminder, everything I share here is based on my own research and experience, purely for educational purposes, not financial advice. Do your own research, and if you need specific guidance, speak to a qualified advisor. Let's start with health, because it's the one that the finance world most consistently treats as a background variable rather than a core component of wealth. There's a common assumption built into most financial planning that goes something like this: earn, save, invest, retire, enjoy. Health is assumed throughout. It's the invisible premise the whole plan rests on, but it isn't guaranteed. And when it fails, the financial consequences are direct, measurable, and severe. Here's what the data shows for Europe specifically. A 2024 study published in SSM Population Health, a peer-reviewed academic journal, used tracking data from the SHARE survey across 9 European countries. The study followed workers aged 50 to 65 across 7 waves of data, over 80,000 observations in total, and found that people diagnosed with a chronic condition consistently reduced their working hours compared to their healthy counterparts. The effect? Men reduced their working hours by an average of 6.78 hours per week, a 14% reduction. Women by 3.97 hours per week, 13%. Across those 9 countries, the total productivity losses associated with chronic conditions were estimated at roughly $12.8 billion annually. That's not an abstract public health statistic, that's income. For workers in the second half of their career, the years when earnings tend to peak, a 14% reduction in working hours is a 14% reduction in income. And that reduction often arrives at exactly the point when healthcare costs are also rising. Now scale that up. The World Health Organization publishes regular data on the cost of non-communicable diseases across Europe. Their June 2025 report found that productivity losses linked to avoidable NCD deaths in the WHO European region alone exceed $514 billion every year. That figure represents lost income, lost economic output, lost working lives, not healthcare costs. Those are additional. The European Commission puts it even more directly. Premature deaths from major chronic diseases cost EU economies 0.8% of GDP annually, with further losses from lower productivity and employment rates among people living with chronic health problems. And then there is the direct spending dimension. The WHO's 2025 European Health Report drawing on data from all 53 member states across Europe and Central Asia, found that in 25 of those member states, roughly 5% of households experience what's technically called catastrophic health spending. That means healthcare costs are consuming enough of their income that they can no longer meet basic needs like food or energy. In some countries, the figure reaches as high as 20%. I'm not saying that good health is purely a matter of financial discipline or personal choice. Illness is not always preventable. Luck plays a role. Genetics play a role. Life plays a role. What I'm saying is this: your health is not separate from your financial plan. It's part of your financial plan. Protecting it, investing in it, through sleep, through movement, and through whatever your version of that looks like, is not a lifestyle luxury. It's one of the highest return investments available to you, because the cost of losing it is not just medical. It's income, it's time, it's the entire foundation the financial plan was built on. In 1938, Harvard University began one of the most ambitious studies ever attempted in the social sciences. They started tracking the lives of 724 men, 268 Harvard College sophomores, and 456 young men from Boston's poorest neighborhoods, with the intention of following them for as long as possible. They collected medical records, ran interviews, sent questionnaires year after year for decades. The study is now 88 years old. It has expanded to include participants' spouses and 1,300 of their descendants. It's the longest running scientific study of adult life ever conducted. And after 88 years of data, the finding is unambiguous. The single most powerful predictor of health, happiness, and longevity across decades, across income levels, across all the variables they tracked, was not wealth, not fame, not professional achievement, and not IQ. It was the quality of people's relationships. People with strong, supportive relationships were consistently healthier, consistently happier, and consistently lived longer than those without them. The relationship between connection and physical health was, according to Robert Waldinger, who currently directs the study, one of the most surprising findings of the entire research program. Now, here's where this intersects directly with your financial life, because relationship quality is declining in measurable ways across Europe and the developed world, and the health consequences of that are quantifiable. A 2015 meta-analysis led by Julianne Holt-Lunstad at Brigham Young University, drawing on data from over 3.4 million participants across 70 independent studies, found that loneliness increases the risk of premature death by roughly 26%, social isolation by 29%, living alone by 32%. The US Surgeon General's 2023 Advisory on Social Connection benchmarked these findings against other known health risks and concluded that lacking social connection poses a mortality risk comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day, and greater than the risk associated with obesity or physical inactivity. I want to pause on that for a moment. 15 cigarettes a day is a number that most people would treat as a serious health risk requiring action. The equivalent risk from chronic loneliness and social isolation tends to get filed under lifestyle and left unaddressed. Now, why does this belong in a finance video? For two reasons. The first is direct. The health costs of loneliness, mental health treatment, physical health deterioration, and reduced working capacity are financial costs. Everything we covered in part 1 applies here too. The second is structural. One of the most common failure modes of the pursuit of financial independence is that it becomes total. The relationships, the community, the shared time, they get deprioritized for years in favor of optimizing the number. And then the number arrives and the social infrastructure isn't there. The Harvard study is not a soft argument about feeling good. It's an 88-year dataset saying that relationships are load-bearing. They're not a reward for when you've finished the financial work. They run parallel to it. This is something the Kahneman-Killingsworth-Mellors adversarial collaboration, published in PNAS in 2023, points to as well. 3 researchers pooling conflicting datasets on income and happiness. Their conclusion: money does continue to improve life satisfaction as income rises, on average. But the relationship is not uniform. For the least happy people, roughly the bottom 20%, the benefit of additional income flattens around $100,000. If your life is missing something that money can't address, more money won't resolve it. Wealth is not a number, it's a system, and relationships are a structural component of that system. The third dimension is the one that ties everything together, and the one that, in my view, is most often left out of financial planning conversations entirely. What is the money actually for? I don't mean that as a philosophical provocation. I mean it practically, because if you don't have a clear answer to that question, you're essentially running a financial optimization without a destination. You're maximizing for a number that has no defined purpose. For most people, when they're honest about it, the answer involves some version of the same things: time, autonomy, and quality of daily experience. The freedom to structure your days without being entirely governed by obligation. The ability to choose the people around you, to eat well, to move, to travel if you want to slow down when you need to pursue work that has meaning rather than just income. The French have a phrase for this that doesn't translate neatly: savoir vivre, knowing how to live. It's not about luxury. It's about the deliberate crafting of a life that actually feels like yours. This is where financial independence becomes most useful, not as the moment you stop working, but as the point at which you have enough security and flexibility to make choices based on what you actually want, rather than what you can afford. But here's the thing that the data keeps showing. Across study after study, people consistently underestimate how much of their quality of life comes from things that are not primarily driven by money. And they consistently overestimate how much a financial improvement will improve their lived experience. The Harvard study is the clearest evidence of this. The researchers tracked people across 88 years, across all income levels. The happy, healthy, long-lived ones were not distinguished primarily by their wealth. They were distinguished by the quality of their daily lives, their relationships, their sense of purpose, their engagement with the world around them. The Kahneman-Killingsworth finding adds nuance. Money does matter, and it matters more than older research suggested. But money is one variable in a system. Optimizing exclusively for it while neglecting the others is not a strategy for a wealthy life. It's a strategy for a well-funded but incomplete one. So what does this mean practically? It means that the goal isn't just to accumulate a number. The goal is to build a life that is wealthy in all 3 dimensions we've covered today. Financially resilient, with savings, investments, and a plan. Physically capable, with your health protected and invested in as an asset. Relationally rich, with genuine connections that carry their own return on investment across decades, and aligned with what you actually want from your daily experience. These things reinforce each other. Good health supports your earning capacity and your quality of life. Strong relationships reduce the health risks that create financial exposure. Time and autonomy, what financial independence actually delivers, allow you to invest in both. Money is the tool that makes the whole system more resilient, but it was never supposed to be the whole system. Three exercises. Each takes less than 30 minutes. First, do a health audit, not a medical one. Write down honestly the 2 or 3 things you know you're neglecting that have a direct bearing on your long-term health. Not to judge yourself, just to see clearly. Sleep, movement, how you eat, stress load. Then pick one and treat it like a financial decision. What's the return on addressing it? And what's the cost of continuing to ignore it? Second, do a relationship audit. Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are those relationships nourishing or draining? Are there people who matter to you that you've been systematically deprioritizing in favor of work or financial goals? Relationships require maintenance. They don't maintain themselves any more than a portfolio does. Schedule something, a call, a lunch, a walk. Third, write down what you're actually building toward. Not the number, the life. What does a day look like when you've reached financial independence? Who is in it? What are you doing? What does it feel like? If you can't answer that, the financial plan has no destination. And the plan without a destination is just accumulation. €10 million with your health intact, people around you that you love and trust, and the clear sense of how you want to live, yes, that's probably enough. Without those things, it's still a lot of money, but it's a much lonelier number. Build the whole thing, not just the account. Money is a tool. If you don't learn to control your finances will control you. But finances alone won't give you a life. That part is on you.